We are raising the villages, Mawiomi, Wijit, Mijuajik. This translates to gathering for our children. Our mission is the early years, starting strong, creating welcoming spaces to connect and belong. We are located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Through raising the villages, Mawiomi, Wijit, Mijuajik, we are weaving back together our lives from our infants to our elders and from across all cultures to deepen our respect and understanding for each other.
Hi, my name's Allison. I'm a stay-at-home mom in Port Hawkesbury of 2 kids. My husband and I moved to the area in late 2017 with our then year-and-a-half-old daughter. We don't know anyone in the area. We don't have family here. We moved here for my husband's job. So when we first got here, I felt pretty isolated. And it took a while for me to connect with the community. I found a play group that was going on and started attending with my daughter and found other moms of similarly aged kids who I was able to connect with, become friends with, and they in turn could help point me towards the other programs in the area, things that I could attend with my daughter, things that we could do to get us out of the house, places to go because we didn't have a family doctor for a while after we moved here. So things like flu shots and standard vaccines as my daughter grew up. Where do I go for those? I don't know. And the women in the area were able to help point me in the direction of a lot of that support. Later that year, Raising the Villages had an event with a number of the community organizations came out and gave us information on what supports they provide to young families. And that was really important and helpful. That's where I learned about the Strait Area Women's Place. That's where I learned about all the things that public health does in the area. Some of the other programs that go on that I still wasn't aware of even after meeting moms and learning some of those things. So that was just really important for me when I moved to the area to help me feel connected to the community, to help me have the mental health to be able to raise my children well, to connect them with various programs and stuff that help their social development and other aspects of their development. All of that was super important, and it's easy for new families to fall through the cracks without an organization like Raising the Villages. So I think it's super important that they keep doing what they're doing.
If, as the African proverb states, it takes a whole village to raise a child, then what does that mean for communities now, where we find services, programs, neighborhoods more isolated from each other? It may be time to ask, how do we raise the village? Can we start to see our youngest citizens as the North Star for our collective journey, to provide equity from the start for all? Can we work upstream to reduce social isolation, poverty, and vulnerability, and more importantly, work together to share the love, caring, and support our youngest citizens need and deserve for their healthy development? Can we provide a space that welcomes everyone and integrates everything? And it is important to recognize that when we say it takes a whole village to raise a child, that we're talking about from the beginning, from the prenatal period onwards. Because the evidence is clear that the early years sets the foundation for your lifelong health, physical and mental, learning, and relationships. And the early years starts early. Maybe it should be called the early months, because from the prenatal period to 1 year, it is a constant dance of nature and nurture, as the billions and billions of neurons and connections needed for healthy development are formed. And if a mother experiences physical and mental stress during pregnancy, or if there is a lack of support for consistent nurturing and responsive caring in infancy, there is a much higher risk associated with developing downstream problems around learning, health, and relationship. This is known as epigenetics, where experiences get under the skin, and if negative, they can be very hard to remediate or reverse. Here in the Strait region, 1 in 3 children are vulnerable when they enter the school system, and child poverty rates are 1 in 4. And yet we also know that it's not just children from low-income families who are at risk, but indeed all of us. So why now? What's changed? Mothers since the beginning of time always had others to help in caring for their children. Think of the traditional Cape Breton home where grandparents' loving lap was never far off and food security was everyone's job. Now we have lost the norm of the large extended families and physically connected lives, and the in-house care from our infants to our elders. The last few generations has seen smaller nuclear families, computer-connected communities, and separated lives with child cares, schools, work, and residential seniors care all separate. And it's not just at the local level in rural communities that we recognize how important and how hard it is to find service supports and programs where we can all connect to what we need. The Nova Scotia government struck the Ivany Commission to look at why the state of Nova Scotia's economy is doing so poorly. And the data pointed to the number one priority being the early years. Furthermore, in the recommendations made by the Ivany Commission in 2016, it was clearly stated that local communities should engage parents and families around what welcoming means and what we can do about it to create pilots. So in Western Cape Breton, we launched Raising the Villages in January 2017 to find out what was working and what more was needed for families with young children. From over 600 surveys and interviews from across the region, the feedback pointed to the need for a universally accessible, welcoming space in each community. A welcoming space that could act as a hub and coordinate a continuum of supports, services, and programs, all in one place from pregnancy onwards.
My name is Brenda Chizen Beaton, and I'd like to speak with you for a few moments about Raising the Villages. This is a absolutely wonderful initiative that has its roots in collaboration with Waghmacook as well as Waikoma First Nations and the municipality of Victoria County and Inverness County and the town of Port Hawkesbury. And Raising the Villages is based on the premise that we want to create the kind of community where we all feel welcome and where we all belong, from our youngest citizen to our oldest citizens. It's built on the premise of a welcoming and inclusive community where we all come together. And certainly we've had many successful initiatives, both broadly as well as here in the town of Port Hawkesbury, where we have our own chapter of Raising the Villages. And I'd like to give a little shout out to Janelle Loader-Kehoe, who is the wonderful chair of our Port Hawkesbury Raising the Villages chapter. And they just finished a really successful event called Trick or Trunk, where they used COVID-safe protocols to bring our youngest citizens and families together for a COVID-friendly Halloween event. And we've also had other events that we've hosted here in Port Hawkesbury. We've had a celebrating and welcoming our youngest citizens event at the Civic Center. And we have also had a services kind of an expo where we brought together all of our service clubs and our service providers that help families and that help citizens from youngest to oldest in any and all aspects of the community. So what was important about that event is that we built a broad awareness and capacity for all of our citizens who attended, and as well, not only to understand what we have locally, but also to identify what are some gaps for what's missing. And at the end of the day, it's important that we all come together, we all collaborate, and it really does take a village. It takes a village to build the kind of community where we do all feel welcome and where we do all belong. So I'm proud to be part of Raising the Villages. I'm excited and optimistic for our future, especially in a world where COVID-19 has changed the way we live every day, and that the importance of connections will become even more critical in the years to come. So please consider becoming involved with Raising the Villages and to help us fulfill our vision for a community that is welcoming and a community where everyone belongs. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janelle. I'm chairing the Port Hawkesbury Raising the Villages committee for this year, and I just wanted to share a little bit of my story about how we got involved with Raising the Villages. My husband and I are not originally from here. We moved here roughly about almost 4 years ago from BC, and so we didn't know anybody, and so we started Reach Church, and we started a play group there called Play Cafe. It was a place where people could come and get connected, and which was great, and it was a lot of fun. But the thing is that we ourselves, we don't have children, so it was kind of hard to make friends. It was kind of hard to get plugged in to this community. And then we heard about Raising the Villages, and they seemed to kind of be doing what we were already doing. And so we decided, let's get involved in that. Let's get behind that. And so we just showed up just out of the blue at a Raising the Villages committee meeting. And the rest is kind of history. We met a lot of people there at the committee, and we met lots of people at the Raising the Villages event. And it was kind of like a turning point for us in making Port Hawkesbury seem more like a home. And so if you're watching this and you're kind of like we were and wondering, how do I get involved? How do I make Port Hawkesbury feel more like a home? I would encourage you just to jump feet first and get involved. And if you don't know how to get involved or where to get involved, you can, shoot me an email, rtvporthawkesbury@gmail.com. I'd love to connect you with something, because there's this misconception that small towns are welcoming, and that small towns, you know what's going on, and if you don't have any connections, if you're new, that's not true. So we here at Raising Villages want to make our communities more welcoming, and so I've got a few ideas for how you can do that. So just take a look at this next slide.
Always live on in the land of the dawn, in the hearts of the old and the young, where the sweet grass grows so wild and so free, where the big sea, Unamhagi. There's ice on Brador from shore to shore, a treasure I'll say no more. As the sun sinks low, the moon lights the snow, and the stars sing Unamagi. and glens, from the hills to the